But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
Okay, where's the link?
Hello.
Where's the link to that?
You don't need it. I'm gonna. You don't need the link. I'm going to.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna share my. I'm sharing my video with you, and you'll be able to watch it.
Real boomer hours.
Okay, so hello everybody. We're live. Welcome to Honeybadger Radio. This is the Rantzerker, but we're calling it the Fundzerker because it's also promoting our fundraiser. So anyway, welcome to the Rantzerker number 136. The Honeybadgers versus Sam Seder versus an MRA. Unfortunately, I never learned the guy's name. I was trying to, but I couldn't. Apparently, Sam didn't want to share, so he didn't give us any way of. Oh, you did? Okay, good. Yeah, I'll have to look at it later.
You found his what?
His channel. He's got a YouTube channel.
Oh, okay. Maybe we should invite him on to describe what he was trying to get at.
Yeah, I wanted to do that. That's why I wanted to find his channel, because I wanted to find him. So yeah, send me the link to that sometime. Anyway, Alison, do you want to
dive right in? Yeah.
You got to say a few things, so I'm gonna let you do that.
Yeah, I know. Also, we need to make sure that Karen is watching the stream that Brian has put up. So if you go to,
she'll hear the audio either way because my computer is set to share the audio. But if you want to watch the stream so that you can look at people's faces, you should be able to click on it.
All right.
We're introducing Karen to Discord, so my apologies for some of the
this is total bullshit. It's way more complicated than it needs to be.
Okay, thank you for that. Probably is. No, and technically you're not, but I guess we are for the purposes of this. Okay. So if you would like to support the show, please go to feedthebadger.com. During this show, we'll be stopping periodically and doing shout outs for anybody who donates during the show. So if you want to hear one of Brian's sound bites of thankfulness, I'm pretty sure he has them queued up and ready for that.
We're still viewed as chattel.
There you go. And we'll so for every donation, we'll play a sound bite of absolute madness. Now, once again, that's feedthebadger.com. If you can go directly to the monthly fundraiser at feedthebadger.com/project/badger-media-blitz, or go to feedthebadger.com and hit the pop-ups. I want to do some thank yous because we did get some people putting monies in the hat before the show started. We got one from wait. I gotta go. Sorry, now you can call me Real Boomer Hours. I'm on the wrong. Okay. All right. So we got Safe Demon put in $50. Deadly put in $10. And Silver Crow put in $250. So thank you, Silver Crow. Thank you, Deadly. And thank you, Safe Demon. We are now $710 from our goal. So please, every little bit helps. Every $5 is the last $5 that got us over their goal. So that once again, that's feedthebadger.com. Okay, back to Brian. Should we do some spoons? I mean, the $250 certainly deserves a spoon.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm sorry. I don't have that up right now. Hold on.
Okay.
Give me a second.
When we need backroom button pushing music.
Yeah, no, I've already got it. All right, thank you for your kind donation. So now,
all right, let's do this.
Let me tell you what we're doing. So we're gonna be looking at this video, and I put a link to it in the description.
Can't do it before you tell us what we're doing.
Watch it yourself. Well, yeah. Well, they should know what it is we're doing. Get the context. And it is a show called The Majority Report, which hasn't really been relevant and is only semi-relevant as of recently because Sam Seder tried to jump on Steven Crowder's stream and hijack it, like last week or something like that. But the Majority Report is something that we've actually known about for quite some time. So they're basically some progressives that discuss the events of the day and generally like attack people like verbally who they disagree with. And they're really big on coming after MRAs. That clip I played earlier of the guy who said women were still viewed as chattel, he is a contributor on this YouTube channel. So it's been a while. And so what happened here is I think the guy who owns the channel, Sam Seder, he received a call from a self-described men's rights activist, and he wanted to essentially discuss men's rights. And Sam Seder was on with two women, and they had a debate / discussion. I don't know what you would call it, but we're basically going to go through it. So prepare your spines.
Debacle. They had a debacle.
Yeah, it was a debacle. It was a mess. So prepare your spines. Now, before I start reading, I am going to read a couple super chats that I got. Polaris589 gives us $5 and says, breaking news, Bill Cosby has been released from prison. Sexual assault conviction overturned by Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Thank you for that. We knew I was going to make that a topic for the news show for next week. But yes, thank you for that. Master Rogue gives us $5 and says, Brian, did you plug in the emotional labor sound I sent you? No, I'm sorry, I forgot. I'll get it and plug it in. But for a while, my Stream Deck sound bites weren't working, but they are working. They are working now. So,
of course. All
right. So let us get into the video. This thing it's basically like cringe from beginning to end. So.
I've been watching.
Oh, you know what? I think I'm gonna play this at slightly faster than normal speed. It helps.
Also, we have to be really careful with the copyright. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm doing that. That's why I'm doing that.
Do you know where so it's 28 minutes of this debacle?
Yeah. Did you not know how long it was?
Like, is this? No, I thought that was like just somebody. Did you get like time codes of the best bits, or are we gonna have to go through the whole thing?
I did not, but that's only because we're not gonna get through this whole thing regardless.
Oh, it's because it's a hose of shit.
Yeah, it's just a hose of shit. Like I would literally just be marking everything. So pay attention to the way. I think that we gotta like take something of value from this conversation. So this is what I'm going to suggest to people watching. Pay attention to the way in which Sam Seder tries to control the conversation, and pay attention to the women's reactions. The way that they react to just the idea of an MRA being on the call, but the fact that he would want to talk about men's issues, and their basically like their facial expressions. Just pay attention to those things. So here we go.
They're already pretty fierce right now.
Yeah, they're mad that he even called, right?
Have advised me to call in. I am a men's rights activist.
You're a men's rights activist?
Moderator of several men's rights groups.
Okay.
And I feel like the men's rights movement is very much misunderstood. I've called in C-SPAN before. I've written articles before.
Okay.
And it's a fun hour, so let's just talk.
Okay.
This is a little fast to listen to. Maybe put it down a notch.
All right, I'll take it down.
You need this. I can't follow this.
No,
well, he's basically.
You'd have to speak.
It was only at 1.5. I only had it at 1.5 speed, but
no. Regular time.
All right.
Yeah. No. Well,
especially if people are going to be.
Karen, let's try it. Let's try it at 1.25 and see, because the reason why he's doing this is because he doesn't want to get hit with a copyright strike, which is a definite possibility. So.
Yeah, let's play another 30 seconds. He's basically
20 seconds.
So 20 seconds, okay. He's called and he said that men's rights activists are misunderstood or misrepresented, and I would like to make the case for them, essentially. So
perception. If someone told you they were a men's rights activist, what would your perception be? Like, how would you see that first gut reaction?
My first gut reaction? Do you want me to be totally honest?
Of course.
I think you're a lunatic.
Okay, so you say lunatic.
Yeah, you asked me to be honest, and I wasn't gonna disrespect you by not being honest.
You gotta stop every 20 seconds, Brian. Otherwise, we're gonna be hit with a brick. A lunatic. Okay, so we're all lunatics here.
Okay, well, but the guy who called in, and I put the link to his video, kind of his response or whatever, to message to Sam Seder and Majority Report after this debacle of a call-in. He put up a video almost right away, and he said actually that he really appreciated that Sam Seder was honest and said, "Yeah, I think you're a lunatic." Because he's like, at least he didn't start off by lying to me about what he thinks. So
okay, fair enough. But sure, I guess if you're going to dismiss everything that people like us have to say as lunacy, all right. Well, there's a lot of good company in history for the lunatics, as far as I can tell.
Right. Well, the only thing I would add to that is these people don't have an interest in actually discussing any real problems. So they are going to dismiss people as lunatics. So, yeah.
They all believe that, right off the bat, all three of these people believe that feminism invented men caring about women in the 1960s.
Yeah.
Like, literally. They believe, or they say they believe that. I don't think you can actually believe that because it's ridiculous.
They didn't just invent men caring about women. They convinced men to finally care about women.
Yeah, exactly. What mechanism by which feminists convinced men to finally care about women, we don't know because they never used it. They simply just presented a new list of demands, and at most, men's negative response was, "Okay, we'll get to this as we're able." And of course, that was classed as dread misogyny. But really, these three people genuinely believe that feminism invented men caring about women in the 1960s. Just let that penetrate. Because every time I say this to a feminist, they don't really have a response for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's like when I did the interview, I did the chat with Carl Benjamin years ago, and he said, "Well, I remember talking to my grandparents, and my grandfather would walk down the hill, or great grandparents or something like that. He'd walk down the hill towards his house with all the other coal miners, and they'd just be black from head to toe, right, with coal, and so that their own kids didn't recognize who's my dad until he actually started climbing up the front stoop of the house." And he'd hand his pay over to his wife, and she'd take out what she needed to run the household for the week, and she'd hand a portion of the rest, not all of the rest, but a portion of the rest back to him so he could spend it at the pub on Friday. And that was how they organized their lives, right? She was responsible for managing the money that he earned, and he went into that coal mine every single day so she could devote her time to cooking, cleaning, childcare, and what various cottage industries she could operate within. I mean, and there's the cottage industries that still exist today, right? Like you have my friend in British Columbia, she'll bake pies or make jams or all kinds of other things, and then she'll swap them for other things like free babysitting or whatever, right? It's like an underground economy where it's basically swapping barter system where no money changes hands and therefore it doesn't get taxed, and she grows the ingredients for her pies in her own backyard garden type thing, right? So I mean, like this is how women kind of operated within the domestic sphere, and their husbands went out and brought home the actual currency, and handed it over to their wives, right? And that's like that. This was significantly before the 1960s, right? And if I were someone working in a fucking coal mine, I'd be like, yeah, fuck you, bitch.
Yeah, it's almost like
I'll
it's all
decide
bullshit.
how I'm gonna spend the money, right?
Yeah. All right, let's play the next.
Definitely.
Oh,
no, but I just want to say, okay. Since this started, we haven't got any donations, but please or support. please go to feedthebadger.com, put $5 in the hat. I mean, if everybody who's watching now put $5 or $10 in the hat, we would be done. So please do that. feedthebadger.com/project/badger-media-blitz. And I will stop harassing.
And then
I'll shut up.
Then you would be able to click the X and stop listening to us.
Well, you don't have to. Okay, maybe what we'll do is if we don't get a donation, I'll get Brian to stop all this and put on some feminist wailing.
Oh, excellent.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Okay,
no,
so
there was this guy. There was this guy, Obsidian. He had me on his show, and every single time the super chats started slowing down, he would put on really obnoxious stuff as punishment, and then the super chats would start rolling in.
Yeah, I know him. I've had
so
him
we might
on
have
the
to do that. Of course, I don't know if that helps because we were already watching really obnoxious stuff.
Yeah, this is obnoxious. All right, Zaring gives us $5 and says, anyone who's familiar with Majority Report understands Sam Seder isn't the person to waste time on with this discussion. And yet somehow the women on this are even worse. They are literal. They're just there to be holes. I don't know. They serve no purpose. They don't make arguments. They're worthless. Which is, not all, but most. I'm not talking about all women here, just these women. They literally serve no purpose.
Okay, this is the point of the female or the male men's rights, or not men's rights, the male feminist is to acquire a harem of vapid bobbleheads who will simply respond. I mean, it's the Trudeau effect. Okay.
I mean, I'll let you'll see. Just what? Maybe one of them does make a really great argument, and I was wrong.
So that was my first thought. Was like,
I would ask for nothing less than the truth, and that's absolutely fine. I get that reaction all the time, and I understand why that's your reaction. Right. I see all these articles that are equating the men's rights movement to like the alt-right, like incels, the misogynists, and what I'm trying to get across is that is not what the men's rights movement is actually about. And
well, why don't you tell us what the men's rights movement is actually about?
You're gonna have to pause, Brian.
I know. I got this. It's just there's a little lag when I press the button. That's all.
Okay. All right. Okay. Individual who called in. They do this because they don't want to hear. They know that these issues are meaningful. They know that the world doesn't care about men because that's why they're feminist. Because they want to be on the winning side. They want to be on the side that actually gets money and power and social control. Like they know if they advocate for men, the money dries up, the social control dries up, the attention dries up, because people don't care. They don't have an instinctive concern for men. Men exist to provide and protect women, and that's why feminism works. So they never invented men caring about women in the 1960s. They only exploited.
Yeah. Oh, and they've been exploiting it since way
before the 1960s. They know that men's rights, like all of them. Look at these smiles on their faces. They're like, yeah, this is the little scrawny kid who thinks that he's going to get to play a real game of dodgeball, And what's really he's going to be on our team, and what's really going to happen is both teams are basically going to gang up on him until he's been hit with a ball so much he falls down and starts crying. That's their faces. That's the faces of schoolyard bullies who've grown up and got a show. And they know. They at 100% know that men's rights activists have nothing to do with incels. Or if we do, it's that we're like, well, maybe if people are driven into a corner, don't drive them even harder, because very, very few of them who have antisocial personality disorder and are socially isolated might end up engaging in something that you find unpalatable, and most of that will just be ridiculous invective on the web. Some of it might be actual physical aggression towards others. Don't give them nothing to lose. Maybe reach out and say, well, you're not entitled to sex. Maybe some consideration, some concern, some caring from the world. A lot of these kids are physically disabled or victims of sexual abuse, like incels. A lot of them are actually physically disabled or have experienced extreme forms of abuse. So, maybe consider care or concern before you do more social ostracization of these individuals who are already significantly ostracized. But, that doesn't make us incels. And certainly we're not the alt-right, because the alt-right has some very particular notions about, how men and women should act. And we advocate for all men, not just some men. And we certainly, I have called out the excesses of white women. Throughout history. And like, I was talking about Karens before the freaking social justice warriors were talking about them. And so we're not, how dare? Yeah, I know. Like, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, so
I actually like the Karen meme.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's right. That you're the good Karen. You're the not all Karens.
Yep.
Okay, so they know. Like, caller, these guys know. They know. They know exactly what you're saying, and they have chosen incredibly cynically to be on the side that gives them the ability to stand above you and spit on you. Like, this is nothing to do with reason, logic, reality. This is everything to do with whatever gives them the power to be bullies. And look at their smiles. Those are the smiles of fucking bullies. I mean, do you not? If you're a bullied kid, do you not remember these smiles?
Well, it certainly isn't any kind of expression of openness or, caring.
No, Karen. These are the smiles of somebody who's about to enjoy the pain of another.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we continue?
Okay, let's go.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say there are both legal and social disparities that affect men and boys around the world. So both instances of legal discrimination that hurt men and boys, and different social standards and double standards that affect men and boys. And we would like to bring attention
the woman in
to
red is writing something.
Yeah, she's taking a note. I think I've seen her before. The woman in red and the other woman are familiar to me. Like, I may have seen them on a video years ago.
We should expect something really, really intelligent from the woman in red. She's taking notes.
The woman in red is a regular co-host on this show, and the other woman is a guest.
Okay. All right, let us continue. He's basically explaining the legal challenges that are unique to or impact men and boys more.
Disparities and discriminations, both legislatively to fix the laws, to make them equal, and socially to get people kind of talking about it. Hey, you know what? I've noticed this is true. This is a double standard that affects men.
Right.
How come when a guy gets a girlfriend, people think it's funny, etc.?
Okay, now let me ask you this, because I'm sure you have a long litany of
I'm going to pause it there. I just want to make sure that this isn't too low. I know that it is, like, it's kind of the volume level of the actual video seems a little bit low. So, and the caller is the caller is lower than Seder is. So it's out of my hands.
Down.
Yeah, it's kind of out of my hands.
That face, that face he's making, that could be on the cover of the album of punchable faces.
Well, let's hear him, what he has to say.
That's not advocacy for violence. That's just
being punchable is not the same as advocating for violence. All right, let's keep going.
Of legal disparities that you're aware of, and of social slights, like how come people think it's funny when a guy gets dumped by his girlfriend, but not when a girlfriend gets dumped by his guy? I mean, like, I don't know how to measure that.
Wait.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Look at the contempt for male vulnerability on his face. Is this a feminist? I bet he is a feminist, right?
Oh, yeah, no, he's a total lefty. Of course he's a feminist.
Yeah.
Okay, so men should be vulnerable, but they have no vulnerabilities, like, essentially. And he's mocking male victims of domestic violence right now.
Yeah, well, okay. This show, The Majority Report, the guest host when Sam Seder went, on vacation was Matt Binder. Women were treated like chattel.
Women were still viewed as chattel.
There you go.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I want to make a caveat.
Maybe 100 or so years ago.
100 years ago, they had the vote. Okay, can I just make an observation? I'm going to be pithy. Not only do feminists say they invented men caring about women, in the 1960s? Only white men invented caring about women. Or sorry, only white men now care about women. Or only white cultures or Western cultures that have adopted feminism care about women. I just wanted to put that out there. Like,
well, I
isn't
mean,
that astounding?
No, but
go
there's this really, really weird bifurcation in their brains. It's like some kindly passing surgeon took a fucking sawzall and just divided the hemispheres of their brain, right?
It's almost as if they believe whatever gives them power in the moment.
So they could simultaneously believe that only white majority Western societies have embraced the idea that women are human beings. However, Muhammad was the first male feminist on the planet, right? Oh. And I can actually get behind the idea that Muhammad had progressive views about women and property, women and the right to earn income, women and their right to divorce, women and all kinds of things like that, right? Women and their entitlement to the labor and support of men, all of those things, okay? Absolutely, I can get behind that and say, well, yeah, that actually is in the Quran. It is in the Hadiths, right? That is a thing, okay? But, you know, and this is where traditionalists and conservatives drive me fucking crazy, is they're like, send the feminists over to the Middle East, right? Yeah. And I'm like, no! Why would you want them to fuck up the Middle East even worse than they're fucking us up here? Right? Because all they're going to do is they're going to look at one half of the equation, look at one half of the, you know, equitable treatment equation, you know, equal but different. Okay? They're going to look at that. They're going to do the exact same thing they did here. Right? They're going to basically take the buffet with all the great items that are like super appetizing and tasty, and all the shitty stuff that nobody wants to eat. They're going to put women first in line. They're going to pick through everything that's tasty and delicious, right? And all that's going to be left for men is all of the crap that tastes like shit and no one wants to eat.
But you see, Karen, this is what everybody actually wants. Like that's the funny thing is, no, but seriously, no, this is okay. This is why I say that feminism they think that feminism invented men caring about women in the 1960s. Most men on the planet want women to be protected and provided for first. That's why these people get the power that they do, because it is a socially acceptable concept. You know, the idea that we should maybe take care of the people who are right now majority invested in maintaining our society. So when they have problems, eventually society itself will have a huge goddamn problem. That is verboten, because, you know, we're talking about men here. But if you talk about anything to provide and protect for women at the expense of men, that's an easy sell. That is the way people, like 99 actually, I'm going to go 100% of people on the planet believe that is the way that society should be structured. Now, there are variations. The variations, like if you're in a tribal culture, you have to hold women to a standard of behavior, or you risk everything imploding. And that's why we look at those tribal cultures and they say, oh, it's misogyny. Well, it's not misogyny. It's not. No. They have created a balance between what they're capable of giving their women and what they need to expect from their women to be able to give that thing. But if you look at the stats in terms of in some cases life expectancy, when you're dealing with more modern science that can actually help with childbirth, and also life expectancy in terms of violent death in particular, those places still have women are a lot safer. And they're often more provided for because they're still in the home, whereas boys are thrown out on the streets if they don't have a family. A girl will be taken into a household. Boys are thrown on the streets in those societies. So when you look at that, go ahead, Karen.
No, I had some idiot on Reddit, right, who accused me of, I'm apologizing. I'm an Islam apologist, right? Because I don't think that these, And oh, if you look at the statistics, right? You know, women, their life expectancy in Muslim majority countries is like way lower than men's across the board. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna here, let me do the job of PolitiFact for you, right? And I'm gonna look it up. And it took a little bit of work because the actual numbers were divided by they had for both men and women, and then you had to click between pages to get the stats on just men and on just women, right? And in the country, I believe it was Syria, in the country where life expectancy was the lowest, right, of all Muslim majority countries, right, the life expectancy gap was the widest in favor of women. There was no Muslim majority country where men lived longer than women, right? In some cases, it was a couple of cases, it was 2 years. In most cases, it was closer to 7 to 10 years. In frickin' Syria, if I recall correctly, it was something like 18 years, an 18-year fucking life expectancy gap, right? With women living 18 years longer than men, right? And I'm just like, and I'm like, okay, here's how you're a liar. You're a fucking liar. You're a lying liar. You're a lying liar who lies. Right? They just say this shit. They pull it out of their ass and they say it, and they don't expect anyone is ever gonna fucking look it up.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the biggest shithole country with the lowest life expectancy of every single Muslim majority country has the biggest life expectancy gap, which means that low life expectancy for human beings in general in that country is driven by the extreme rate of male death.
Yep. So when you look at all across the board, what you find is that men in every single culture are attempting to make sure that the women of their culture are safer and more provided for than they are. And what a surprise that feminism says it has actually invented white people caring about women, because it's basically no other group of people can possibly be compelled to care about women, according to feminism, unless they are, colonized by white cultures or Western cultures. But, not only does it say that, but it's actually exploiting what it says it created, which is really interesting if you think about it, like the kind of mental gymnastics. Because I was describing this with Brian. Of course, if you're a severely bullied kid, of course, the way you deal with your bullying is to go up to your bully and say, here's a list of the things that I want from you, and I expect it pronto.
Yeah.
That's how you deal with a bully. You don't act like you're afraid of them. You don't act like you have to negotiate. You don't act like you're in a position of submission. And feminists have always acted entitled to what they say they
always been willing to make demands.
They've always been willing to make demands, and they've always acted like they're entitled to what they say doesn't exist, which is surprising, isn't it? To be entitled to something you say doesn't exist or didn't exist before you invented it.
Yeah.
And yet the entitlement seems to be there from the very beginning, from the Declaration of Sentiments on. How odd. Yeah. How odd. More likely, men all around the world forever have cared about women and wanted to protect and provide for them. And feminism simply piggybacks on that. And to bring it back to this guy and what he said, in that whole conception, or Karen, there's a lot of echoing. Do you have your earphones in?
Okay, no, I don't, because I'm actually listening to the fan on my computer going. Oh. And I'm thinking it might freaking shut down any moment. I'll mute myself for now.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm looking at this guy, and he hates male vulnerability. Like, this guy's talking, the caller is talking about male vulnerability. That's what he just called in to talk about. And this guy's like, no, there's no such thing, basically. Like most male feminists, I'm sure he knows that there is. It's just it's not useful to him, and he doesn't care about other men. So there you go. He wants what gives him power, and he does not want to care about those individuals he just doesn't care about that have nothing to do with him having power and influence and attention. Am I wrong? Like,
no, you're not. Like I said, I listened to the caller's follow-up video response to this call into this show, and basically, like I certainly have been at this long enough that I would have responded in, I guess, better ways, right? More effective ways to Sam Seder and his commentary and stuff. But it really is, if we move forward with this, I'm sure, just based on what this kid, because I haven't watched this actual video yet, I just watched the kid's response to it, right? And he's a young guy. He's red orange 22, or no, blue orange 22 or something like that on YouTube. But he the arguments, you literally have to show them what they're doing. You have to tell them what they're doing, right? So when I was on the phone on an Ottawa radio station, right before a cafe conference that I was speaking at, doing an interview with a very liberal host, and she says to me, well, it's the statistics clearly show that women are the vast majority of victims of domestic violence. Right? My response was not to be dragged into, I said, I'm not interested in being dragged into a debate about statistics. You're wrong, but that's not that's not my point here, right? My point is, okay, let's say we're talking about sexual assault of women. You and I could both agree that one rape is one too many, right? And she says, yes. And I said, so even if we got to the point where only a handful of women in Canada were raped every year, you would believe, right? And we would both agree that those women who were victims, right, of this horrific crime, right, would be entitled to support services and justice, right? She agreed. And I said, well, I don't care how many men, how many victims of domestic violence are men. I think that even just one man turned away from support services and justice, right, based on his sex alone, is one too many, right? And when you get them to agree with the premise, right, they have no way to disagree with that. They have no way, right? Just because it's rare, right? Just because it's rare, does that mean that it's not traumatic to the individual that it's happened to? Does it mean that person doesn't need support?
No.
Right? And access to justice? So, like, I'm sorry, but a 95%, even if I was going to agree that there's a 95% monopoly on victimhood for female victims of domestic violence, that does not justify a 100% monopoly on services.
Well, and furthermore, if you were a feminist, you would say that women constituting 5% of the victims of domestic violence means that the domestic violence industry isn't serving them because it's geared towards the majority of victims. Therefore, women are still the biggest victims relative to men, which is the argument that they make for homelessness, and also apparently for rehabilitating child soldiers. Girls are the smaller amount of those victims. Women are the smaller amount of the homeless. Therefore, because services are geared towards the majority, they are, even though they still get services and they even have specialized services for them particularly, they are disenfranchised by being the minority victims of a problem. Like, so men are disenfranchised by being the minority victims. I mean, they're not, but the minority victims of rape and domestic violence.
Yeah,
because the services aren't geared towards them.
So basically, you all you have to do is say, for the sake of argument, I'm going to agree with your statistics, right? It still does not justify, right, a 100% monopoly on services and justice, right, for women, right? Because one victim turned away from a domestic violence shelter one victim who the police refuse to help, right? Based on sex alone is one victim too many, right? And that is like, I'm not even arguing. I'm not even arguing that there need to be equal resources, equal money, equal funding for male victims of these problems, right? In fact, I think that likely that's not necessary, even if they're half of all victims. I don't think men are going to leverage those services to the degree that women do because of just differences between how men and women respond to these things, right? But that doesn't mean they should not be allowed access, equal access, right? Which means that they have an equal chance of getting support and getting justice when they seek it. And that's really what I'm about, right? I'm not about, equal outcomes, equal funding, equal whatever. I'm about equal access, equal opportunity, I guess, to access those things, right? For both male and female victims. And so, and if once there's equal access and everybody knows that it's there, men do not seek access to those things as frequently as women do, fine. Right? Fine. If they would rather do something different, right? Like the way Tom Golden talks about, how men and women respond to trauma differently, right? If they would rather do something different, rather do something that helps them maintain a sense of independence and self-sufficiency and all of those things that are important to men, more important to men than to women, obviously, then that's cool. And if that's a better way for men to heal and get past their trauma, then that's great. I'm all for that, right? But you still have to actually give them an equal opportunity to access the services, the support, and the justice system when they're victimized, right? And that's something that we're not seeing right now. And this is one of the things that I think, so many men's rights activists fall into the trap of arguing over statistics when you can shame these people, right? You can shame them into use like okay, so let's say because this guy the caller brought up prostate cancer and how men under 65 years of age. Oh my fucking god! I'm gonna kill whoever's calling.
Somebody's calling?
Men who, no, just it's never mind. I'll ignore it. But how men under 65 are not covered for prostate cancer treatment under Obamacare, right? And Sam Seder says, well, that's because it's very rare. And it's like, well, yeah, breast cancer in women under 25 is extremely rare too. But you would never tolerate a statistical argument about rarity to justify denying them coverage for breast cancer treatment. Would you? Would you ever tolerate that? No, because it's statistically rare. So we can just let her die or go bankrupt?
Yeah.
Like these are the arguments that these people make, right? When you get into the statistical aspect of it. And no, you don't be sucked in to an argument over statistics. Ask them if they would tolerate, right, a woman being denied access to support services because she was a minority victim of something. She was, women commit suicide. Only 25% of the victims of suicide are women, so they don't deserve services, right? Trauma services and crisis services. Oh yeah, women under 25, right, hardly ever get breast cancer, so we don't need to bother covering breast cancer treatment for them, right? Like, would anybody take the statistical probabilities as a justification to deny them equal access?
No. We get it. We and it's true.
Shall
now,
we continue?
Yeah,
we didn't even hear the clip. Karen responded to a clip that we haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah, we haven't even heard it yet.
Yeah, we're not going to though, so don't worry, guys. It's not gonna happen. We're like 2 minutes in, And it's been an hour, almost an hour. It's
Should I do some thank yous then?
If there are any thank yous to do, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So let me just, okay, so we got $20 from the Print Master. Thank you, Print Master. We have $25 from Luke H. And we have $50 from Michael O. So thank you, Michael O., Print Master, and Luke H. If you want to join them, please go to feedthebadger.com. You can follow the pop-up, or you can go directly to the fundraiser at feedthebadger.com/project/badger-media-blitz. Let's get this done. We now have less than 600. We have, I think, $595 left. So, I mean, let's do it. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
Go. Do it.
I'm gonna hit play now. Cyberzerk gives us 50 kronas and says Swedish surprise sex. No, not that kind. Because Swedish kronas are it's written SEK. They're sex, yeah.
Okay. I will say for the record, I do not think either is funny.
Okay, but fair enough. Let me just stipulate some of those things without even hearing them. What, at the end of the day, is the net implications of this?
I think, and this has been backed by studies of human psychology, there is a subconscious tendency to show less empathy towards a male than a female. And they demonstrated this with a study where they offered...
Okay, guy. You're essentially saying to the Nigerian prince scammers, yeah, there's a tendency to want to, there's a tendency for people to want free money. And the Nigerian prince scammers are all like, no, that doesn't exist. Like, this is the basis of their grift. And you're like, oh, there's a tendency to have empathy towards women, or even empathy towards women where the end result is actually harming women more. Doesn't matter. This is the basis of their entire scheme, is to exploit people's empathy towards women. Do you think they're going to admit to that fact, especially when they're in position where they've convinced people that somehow they are the ones who are responsible for like God? They're basically, like, feminists have convinced the world that they're responsible for one of the most important instincts. Like, men hold this instinct as close to their hearts, and I think it's one of the most essential parts to their humanity, which is to protect and provide for women. Like, this is like central to men's sense of their own humanity. Okay? And feminists have convinced people that they were the ones who created it in men, like God. Do you think that they're going to admit to the fact that they aren't responsible for its creation? Like, literally, they're sitting on this massive narrative that somehow feminists made men care about women. Somehow feminists created the instinct for men to protect and provide for women. Even though you see this instinct in every single male half of a social species. You see that instinct. It's right there. They protect and they provide for the females and the young. So it's an evolved instinct, and it's in men too. Feminists have convinced the world that they invented it, like gods. You think that they're going to be like, oh, yeah, you're right. Oh, yeah. Actually, that always existed. Huh? We'll pack it up, guys. It's over.
Yeah, well, but at the same time, they'll say, oh, well, we only wish we had that kind of power to make men care about women, because clearly they don't, since we still live in such a misogynistic society, right? So it's like, it's this absolute gaslighting, right, where they are literally demanding that society concern itself with women to the exclusion of men and even children, while at the same time saying that it not only is progress, the progress that we've made on that front, if you want to call it that, not sufficient, but that they really had nothing to do with it. Anytime you actually call them on any of the bad deeds of feminism, like the tender years doctrine, or the fighting against fighting for the votes for women without simultaneously even advocating mandatory war work for women, let alone a draft, and all of those things, right? They will say, well, we really don't have any power here. I only wish we had the kind of power that men's rights activists claim that we have, but we don't, right? And that's why society still hates women.
Okay, I'm going to continue.
Well, society has a funny way of showing it. No,
yeah.
Let's go.
All right.
Participants money to give electric shocks to a random stranger, and the shocks would increase in pain with each time. Now, of course, they weren't real shocks, and they were just told that. But people were more willing to hurt a man than a woman. Both men and women were both more willing to hurt a man than a woman. And I think people have a blind spot when it comes to male issues because the narrative is that men are privileged.
But this is not.
Okay, I'm pausing it there. So he's trying to explain. He's trying to explain that essentially our society he's trying to make the case that that our society's been conditioned or trained to have like less, if any, empathy towards men, and he's using that study that was done as his example. So he's basically making an argument for a general societal, I guess you could say, view on men and their vulnerability. And let's see what Sam Seder says.
Now, when you talk about the psychology of people having less empathy for men, and that doesn't, I haven't seen those studies, but that doesn't seem completely, it's not hard for me to imagine. What does that have to do with rights?
So he pivots to rights. Now, why does he do that? I want to just say this really quick. Why does he do that? Because the caller is a men's rights activist. And that's what the title that they're carrying, that this guy has come on with. And of course, the title men's rights activist was put on MRAs by feminists because they thought that the notion of men advocating for men was so absurd that they could just call them what they are and people would just point and laugh. And so so feminists started calling, us MRAs. And the idea was to basically say, oh yeah, they want rights for men, wink. You should laugh because this is absolutely ridiculous. And there are rights. There are, in fact, at least one, bodily autonomy, that I can that I can think of. But he's pivoting, and this caller, I don't know if he caught that, but this is a tactic because at the end of the day, these people, they just practice rhetoric. That's why they're debate me bros. Because their whole thing is rhetoric. It's not about trying to find the truth. It's not about trying to gain something of substance or like some greater understanding or least of all, it's not about like maybe finding some blind spot in your thinking and in your awareness of the world. It's just about winning by any means necessary, and it always comes down to rhetoric. I have watched countless debates about all kinds of subjects, from whether or not we should be transitioning children to whether or not people should be forced to take vaccines, or if we need to, if healthcare is a human right, and if men are human beings, and so on. And all of them have boiled down to rhetoric and rhetorical games and word games and redefining things and postmodern bullshit, and none of it has anything to do with actually operating in the realm of reality. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say, but that's what's happening right now. He's basically doing a shell game, and he's going to make this about rights in the technical sense.
Yeah, but it does apply to rights, because if somebody's rights are being violated, the court of public opinion is very important, right? It's extremely important in terms of getting the system to start respecting somebody's rights or giving them the rights that they deserve.
Yeah.
And so like compassion is extremely important in that sense. There needs to be actual public pressure placed on this. So people have to care about the issue before anything's going to change. Right. And so it's like, it really does have a lot to do with the empathy gap, a ton. Like,
I
it's
agree.
very pertinent, right? And so Sam Seder is like, he's completely full of shit. The fact that he can't see how public sympathy would impact somebody's ability or a group's ability to attain their rights.
He can see it. He can see it. He just doesn't care.
I know.
I mean, because they use it to get women shit. So they know that it exists. They know. They just don't give a shit about men. In fact, look, people like this, they want men to just be a slave class. I'm just going to say it. They want men
except for him.
Except for them, because they think they're going to be immune. They can just keep doing their little, radio show or whatever in the first world and just like, get their lattes in their corner fucking studio apartment in Manhattan or wherever the fuck he is. But these people just want men to be a slave class. That's all. Like that's literally everything they advocate for ends up with men paying at the threat of a gun from the government, and then that money going mostly to women or to the elites or to the state itself, whatever. It doesn't matter. That's why.
I just find it remarkable.
They can't, it's not just that they don't care about men. They can't care about men because they have to turn them into a slave class. That is the truth about this.
Well, it does. Well, certainly they don't seem to care, because the thing is that there's no end game to this. There's no end game to the removal of due process when men are accused of crimes that feminists have said that are uniquely male but aren't. There's no end to men losing their rights over their children, over their incomes, and all this other crap.
Oh, there is an end game.
Okay,
there is an end game.
The point I wanted to make was he just said, "Yeah, I concede you at that point. You're right." And he knows. Like, this is what gets me. He has just admitted. He's just like, "Yep, you're right. People have more empathy for women." And yet in the next breath, he's going to say, "Society hates women." He's going to say that. He knows that he is full of, like, everything that he believes in a feminist sense is full of crap. He knows it. But he has to pretend what he is exploiting doesn't exist in order to exploit it. Like, that is what is going on here. And he knows it. He just did. Like, I've been saying this entire time. They know this. They know everything. It's just that you're talking about how men don't get empathy doesn't give them the power. It doesn't give them the money. It doesn't give them the social control. They already know that the world, I guarantee all three of them know that society has less empathy for men. That's why they're not advocating for it. Because that would mean that they would get less power out of it. Less money out of it.
They will advocate for it, but only through the lens of feminism and the idea that men's problems are all men's fault.
Which isn't empathy. No, that's not advocacy for
I know it's
all.
It's not advocacy for empathy. I know that. But that's the only kind of empathy that they're going to ever advocate for is, well, you have to admit that you are the criminal, right? Before we'll actually treat you with any dignity, respect, and kindness.
And we won't treat you with dignity, respect, or kindness. First, you have to admit that it's all your fault. That is the that is the exact opposite of any kind of empathy.
I know.
We know that.
Okay.
All right. So Miles Kinslow gives us $5 and says, "Hey guys, just wanted to wish you all the best. Appreciate the work. Thank you." Well, thank you, Miles Kinslow. All right, let us continue.
Well, for example, in a lot of countries, the state pension age is higher for men than for women.
Is that in this? It's not in this country.
No, in this country we have.
Well, let's just keep it within the United States because I don't know. I also know. I mean.
All right, I'm gonna pause it there. This is another tactic that often gets employed when you try to talk about broad sweeping, issues.
Human phenomena.
Yeah, human phenomena. And then what happens is people like Seder go, "Oh no, I need to make this about the United States, or I need to make this about this specific country, or whatever. I need to shrink this down so that we can't." That way, and I'll just say, "Well, look, man, I don't know everything." It's rhetoric. It's rhetoric.
Face? that
let me
face,
give an
it
example.
just, oh.
Let me give an example, okay? I have, there's a person in my husband's extended family, right, who works in public health. And at one point, this was when his mother decided I was not welcome in her house, right, was this evening when we were all having a big family dinner, and he and I got to talking, and I started talking about domestic violence statistics. And he says, well, I'd need to see some stats on that, globally. And I'm like, there are stats globally. You'd be amazed, right? Jordan and Namibia, right? Both the surveys indicated that this was a UN survey, indicated that dating and domestic violence among people under 30 years old was perpetrated more often by women than by men, right? And then he's like, well, then I'm going to have to see some local statistics. And I'm like, well, locally, blah, blah, blah. And he just switches from one venue to the next. And he's like, well, blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, it's infuriating. It's crazy making, right? Because they refuse to be pinned down. Oh, if you want to talk about local statistics or national statistics, they'll be like, okay, well, but what about globally? What about those poor women in the Middle East, right? And then you talk about those women in the Middle East who beat their husbands more often than they get beaten by their husbands. And they're like, well, but I'm going to need to see some local statistics. And it's like, oh my fucking God, right?
Right.
Can we not trust?
I mean, like, if you talk about circumcision, then you're saying, well, look, in the United States, we have this issue with circumcision. Then they go global and they're like, oh, but in Africa, all of a sudden, it's all about whatever you need at the time.
There's some 13-year-old girl in the fucking wild hills of frickin' Nepal who's still getting her genitals cut, right? And if there's even one of those on the entire planet, we don't need to care about young babies in a fucking modern Western democracy getting their genitals cut.
Boys. They're men or they're boys. Yeah. Okay, I cannot stand his face. Like, why do they all have that? No, but that smarmy, like, look, know-it-all look, like superior.
Again,
they all have that face.
It's what you're dealing with. It's self-righteousness.
And you know
That's
what?
the face.
And you know what? What's really interesting is if you look at Rose Wist's icon, he has chosen to draw that face.
Yep, I know.
And use it to represent himself. Okay.
Okay.
Can we agree that there's also probably more countries around the world that are not the United States where women have far less rights than men, that even if you can find countries where the pension age...
I would absolutely agree.
Okay, so let's just keep... Hold on, can you let me finish?
This guy should not have agreed to this.
He says, yeah, he should not have agreed. No, he should have agreed because that is true. They have fewer rights, right? They have more privileges, but to compensate for their fewer rights. But this guy, Sam, he just goes from like, well, I only want to talk about the United States, and then he's like, well, can we at least agree that globally, right? He's pulling the same fucking crazy-making, gaslighting shit that my cousin did, my husband's cousin did, that made me plant my fucking hands on the table, stand up, yell in his face, right? That, yes, I wouldn't want to be a woman in Iran, but if I had to be somebody in Iran, it wouldn't be a man. And freaking storm out. And then all of his German family members came out onto the deck while I had a smoke and said, wow, that was really interesting. Tell me more.
Yeah.
I have to agree. Like, honestly, if you honestly think that you'd stand there and stay, turn every woman in all of the brown countries, because, as a white man, he's casting aspersion on those brown men's culture that hate their women. And that's the narrative of bombing them too, by the way, guys. That's war propaganda. Those brown men, they just hate their women. Let's go bomb them. But be that as it may, if you were going to say, if you were honestly going to assert that women in those countries would be better off if they were men, they would be better off if they were dying 3 times more often. Like, they would be better off if they're more likely to be on the street. They would be better off if they're more likely to be forcibly kidnapped to be child soldiers. And believe me, boys who are child soldiers get raped too.
Oh yeah.
You know, they don't get raped too. They get raped always.
Yeah, they get raped always. That's part of the indoctrination process. So I mean, this is unbelievably horrific situation that men are in those countries. So yeah, if I had a choice, I wouldn't want to be a citizen of those countries necessarily. I mean, some of them are probably a lot better than when we're led to believe. But if I had a choice, I certainly wouldn't want to be a man. Hell, I wouldn't want to be a man in a Western country either. But that might just be because I'm used to being female. I don't know. Anyway,
well, it's not too bad. I mean, like, okay, if you stick with MGTOW, if you stick with, you know, kind of
men going their own way.
Yeah, with the whole idea of I'm not going to entangle myself with a woman, right? I'm not going to make myself vulnerable in that way. You know, you're probably going to be okay. So I mean, like, I guess, you know, being a man in a Western society, not that bad, right? I mean, you could just decide to take a really low-paying job that just pays your bills. You sock a little away, right? This is what my kids are doing. You sock a little away every month into savings, and maybe invest in some stocks, and you live lean, and you don't make yourself vulnerable, and you're probably going to be okay, because the government at this point can't actually force you to do something you're not willing to do, right? If as long as you don't get
that's, but you know, that's a lot of things that's a lot of things that men have to avoid, like having families and having, you know, like that's a much harder said than done. But let's get to more of this.
All right, I'm gonna play more.
Excuse me. You got your own YouTube show, right?
I do.
Okay, so if you want to throw out random stuff like this, you can do that on your show. But I just want to ask, I want to try and just, you know, sort of like, because I am quite sure, although I cannot.
He's basically asserting dominance in front of the ladies so that they know that he's in charge and this is his show. It was really just.
Do they talk at all?
It's nothing more than a flex. Yeah, they do, but they don't say anything of value. They do, but they don't say anything of value. Yes, I'm saying that about the women on this show. They're pathetic.
Not list it, and I want to be clear on that if we were to survey the laws around the world, that women have far less rights around the world as a net than men.
I thought we were talking about
the pension age for men as.
Yeah, we've gone global again. Also, I don't really care about what he's saying, because literally this fucking guy doesn't even know what the word rights means. So, but for them, rights is just like whatever you give people, that's a right. So yeah, of course, by your fucking standard, women don't have any rights because you're only looking at them, and you're using an extremely loose definition of rights. So I don't really give a shit, because you're not saying you may as well have just been vomiting like pig shit from your mouth. And it would have been a more coherent statement than to try to make the claim that women just have fewer rights globally when you don't know, first of all, what the situation for men is, and second of all, what the fuck rights even means.
It's like if that's your top line, I feel very confident in saying that, because we have a lot of countries where women can't even drive.
It's because women live longer. That's why the pension age, right?
But put that aside for a moment.
Hang on.
Can we just...
What?
Pension
it's because
age.
women live longer. That's why the pension age. So women only have to work till 60 to collect their pension. Men have to work till they're 65. And it's because women live longer and will collect a pension. Okay, women in the UK live 5 years longer than men. And they can start collecting their fucking pension 5 years earlier than men. So they have 10 years of pension that men don't get. And she's like, oh yeah, and that's just why they do it that way, and that's how it works because it makes sense.
What? You're right, Brian. Is
that not the point she's making?
No, I don't think she understands what the hell she just said.
Oh, she doesn't realize that women can retire earlier in certain countries than men can.
No. She literally does not realize that what she said is incoherent. Okay.
No, of course she doesn't.
But she's smiling like it's a slam dunk. So isn't it a slam dunk? Look, the other girl's smiling with her, like, yeah, queen, we got this.
Okay, all right. All right. Let me try to analyze this. All right. Okay. Trying to understand where she's coming from. All right. It's a little bit of an exercise in futility because I don't think she has any rational basis for her thinking. Women live longer, therefore they deserve to retire sooner.
Yes.
So essentially, when you come from this, that women's benefit is an absolute good and an entitlement and an assumption, then I guess that makes sense. That because women are going to get far more retirement, they should get even more retirement. And men,
10 years. 10 years on average more than men.
10 years,
right?
10 years more. And that is good, or that is the way it should be, because women live longer. Like, the only way that this statement makes sense is an utter belief in the entitlement of women.
A vacuum in which you just see benefit to women as the
or
sole.
She really is that stupid.
Yeah. Or she's just that dumb. That's
not a slam dunk.
But she's so certain. Like, I mean, look at her face. There's confidence, and that's literally all you need.
Confidence of the stupid.
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
All right, let's keep going. Play another clip.
Can we just stay in the United States so that
we're back to the States? Fucking
can have this conversation.
I want to ask what Emma just said. Emma just said it's because women live longer. Now, I don't think that pension ages should be different based on gender. But if anything, if one was to make a logical argument based on how...
Correct. The pension age would be shorter. Okay, lower. Now listen to me. Listen, dude. No, you hang on.
Wait.
Okay. He's not going to let him make a point.
Yeah, he's not going to let you make a point because he's already conceded the entire argument. Like, you won. You've won.
Yeah, he conceded, and he's like, okay, so, like, just don't express it for my audience because I don't want them to actually absorb it.
Yeah, I don't want you to. I want to drag you through this circular bullshit so that we can pretend like I didn't just lose the argument at like 4 minutes in. Oh yeah, women get more compassion and empathy. Yeah. Well, you've just lost because your entire worldview is based on the idea that society does not.
And your co-host literally argued that women should get earlier retirement and pension eligibility because they live longer.
Yeah, your entire worldview rests on the argument that society does not have empathy and compassion for women. Therefore, when we see a situation where they have fewer rights, rather than saying, well, do they have more privileges? Do men have more expectations that are quite onerous in exchange for those rights? You always default to that means women are worse off. When you understand and when you accept that society has more empathy for women, then you look at these situations of unequal rights in a different way. And you ask yourself, okay, does this mean, is this in a society where men are expected to sacrifice their paychecks for their wives? Is this a society where men are expected to sacrifice? What is the overall context? And as we can see, like Brian was saying, this is all sophistry because he has conceded that society is more empathetic to women. And now he's trying to work this back. He's essentially just hitting slogans. Mm-hmm. He's hitting slogans that he uses to hide Yeah, he uses to hide this fact from himself and others. So we all know the emperor is naked, but have you seen how scintillating his newfangled silk
His robes
that
are.
is? Yeah, we all know he's naked, but those
They're
robes
like
are
the
really
amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Yeah, they're just incredible. That's exactly what's happening. We all know that society has more empathy for women. So here, these are the ways that we pretend that isn't so. This is how we construct our fiction around the reality. So this is what he's doing, and that's why it's so much sophistry. It's like, well, why don't we just talk? Yeah, I don't want to talk about anybody outside. I don't want to talk about anywhere outside the States.
Yeah.
Let's talk about. Let's just talk about the States. But what about the world? Oh, you think about this about the world? No, we're back at the States now. Oh, you think that about the States? Well, what about the world? Well, no, that's wrong about the world. We're back at the States now. But what about the world? And it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, that's just pure fuck. Everything that has come out of his mouth is just a fucking puppet show.
It's a complete. It's just diversion. Look, a diversion. It's like Pinky in the Brain, right?
Mhm.
When Pinky yells, "Look, a diversion!" Right, and all of the guys run towards where he's pointing, right, and that's all it is.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
I just want to add, just so you guys can see or understand just how I don't want to say dumb, but how ludicrous this woman in red is. She took notes, and this is her big. This is her grand slam. Like, right, boom, women live longer. That's why, like, she took notes.
God.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going.
I mentioned that.
I don't want to talk about
I
it.
mentioned that.
It's really no wonder why. Okay, because my husband just took a new job, and he's working with a very highly competent woman, who is concerned because she doesn't know whether she was hired based on her resume or based on her sex. And he's assured her that your resume is top notch, right? So I wouldn't worry about it, but he's concerned about it. And it's like, well, of course, because women like this woman in red can actually say shit like that and not get called on it by the host. I mean, like, I remember moderating that panel at ICMI 19 in Chicago, and Mr. Reagan, Chris Coles, right, he said, and it was in a panel about the Covington boys, right, the Covington kids, right, about how, what does the media treatment of the Covington kids, Covington boys, say about society's views on young men in America, right? And Chris Coles, he's very conservative, right? He says, well, if you don't commit, if you want to stay out of jail, if you don't want to be arrested, don't commit crime, and that's and I'm like, okay, but wait. I called him on it. I was like, look at the subject of this panel. What are we actually discussing here? Because none of those boys committed any crime. None of those boys did anything wrong, right? And they were smeared in the media. There were people fantasizing about putting them in wood chippers, right? And all of this, right, with them having done nothing wrong, right? And you're literally saying that, oh, well, there's no such thing as, profiling in policing and, stop and frisk and all of these other things. And there's no profiling going on, not regarding race, not regarding gender. And it's like, no, it is, right? And so it's like, you have to actually be willing, if you have any integrity, to call out your own. Sam Seder just lets this woman spout this bullshit, right? That means the exact opposite of what she intended to say, and or the point she was intending to make, And he's just like, oh yeah, no, it's like, well, you know, she's a diversity hire, and so I just got to go along with it. And so
either that, or he thought that she got a slam dunk too, and doesn't even know what she said, because maybe he wasn't listening or something.
No, he knew. Yeah. He actually said it. He didn't call her on it. He said that, yeah, you're right. It's that would mean that men should probably get a lower retirement age so they can enjoy the same amount of retirement as women. He actually said that. He didn't call her on it though. Mm-hmm. Because these are not people to him. They're his women's. Right. They just sit there and they make expressions.
Well, they
possibly
just sit
also
there
suck
and look
him off.
Pretty. Should we continue?
Yep. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's keep going.
Pension age in some random country somewhere else. I want you to explain to me how. Listen, stop talking for a second.
What? Fuck? Is this not escalating quite a bit?
Second, let me finish.
Only on his end.
I want to talk about what rights have to do with the fact that there's a psychological study that show that people are less empathetic to men. What rights do you think that men are denied, and what material difference do you think that lack of empathy provides in the United States?
Yeah, right. I mean, he's trying to tell him, and then he basically just says, well, we're not talking about, like,
the United States. We're talking about the world.
Yeah, we're not talking about,
we're not talking about the world. We're talking about the United States.
Or he'll say, we're not talking about psychology. We're talking about rights. We're talking about legislation. You know? So it flips between the social and the political, or the local and the global. Just so that this guy can't actually, you know, make a point, because he has to keep altering his answer.
That allows me to believe that my energy should go into making sure that men have equal rights, as opposed to the people who have, you know, only recently had the right to have a credit card in their name, or only recently had the right to vote, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, you can fucking fuck off with that shit.
I love how he's like, yeah, these are
for anybody who doesn't know.
But let's, Karen, I really want to get in.
For anybody who doesn't know. Okay? Yes, it's only been since about the 1960s that women had the right, married women, mind you, had the right to have they always had the right, but lenders could refuse the right. Okay? Right? To single women and to married women. Lenders had the right to discriminate based on sex. So it was not a law that said that women can't have credit cards, women can't get a mortgage.
Look at that. That's not a right.
Of course it's not a right, because, well, you have a right to enter into a contract, right? But only by the consent of the other party, right? And the other party was allowed to refuse consent, right? And the reason why women were routinely refused consent, right, when applying for mortgages and applying for credit cards, is because men had a legally enforceable obligation to take responsibility for women's debt. So basically, the lender who was dealing with whether a woman was single or whether she was married, okay, they wanted to know who the man who would be ultimately held legally responsible for the debt if the woman defaulted. They wanted to know who he was and have a look at his credit rating, right? Because they could not legally hold her accountable for that debt. If she was married, that debt belonged to her husband, right? He was a party. He was the responsible party to repay that debt. Of course, he should be a party to the contract and co-sign it, right? If she was a single woman, it would be her brother or her father who were the only people who could be ultimately held responsible for that debt, right? And so the bank wanted to or the credit card company wanted to look at those men and get those men's consent to allow the woman to obtain credit or a loan, right? Because it was ultimately some other person who had a penis who was going to be obligated to pay it back if she decided she didn't want to.
Okay.
That is why. That is why.
Okay.
There was no law banning banks or credit card companies from giving women loans and credit cards.
All right.
Right? It was just like they didn't want it. Oh, well, we're just going to give her a credit card, like we're going to give a 14-year-old kid a credit card without his parents' consent, even though his parents are ultimately responsible for everything he spends on it, and then we're going to have to take them to court having not looked at their credit rating.
What's hilarious about this?
What?
What's hilarious about this, okay, is that law that men are responsible for women's credit was put in place to protect women.
Yes!
And then it had a negative effect on women, and the feminists now use it. And now the feminists use the law that they probably, like, people who are advocating for women put in the first place to protect women, okay? And then societal circumstances change, and then the society's like, oh, wait, that law no longer benefits women. We need to change it. And then it's changed. If you understood, you took that statement.
Not only did it change, right? They banned lenders from discriminating against women and credit card companies and it took 20 years for the law, right? Legal precedent, legal cases to catch up and stop holding men accountable for women's death.
Yes. So what he's citing as an example of let's say the lack of need for men's rights is the following: a law that made men legally obligated to their wives' debt or to their female relatives' debt, to the point in the past where they went to debtor's prison if they failed to pay back that debt. So that was a law explicitly intended to protect women financially by making men take on the burden of their debts. Okay, that law became something that was negative towards women when credit card came out, because then the credit card companies wanted to make sure that the person who was ultimately responsible for the debt could pay it before they issued debt to women. Then society changed it so credit card companies could not discriminate against women. But the original law that the credit card companies were responding to, namely that men were responsible for women's debt, didn't change for 20 years because no one thought it was that critical. And we could see this with perfect clarity if let's walk back in time to minute 4.
The empathy gap.
We recognize the empathy gap. So he's using an example of the exact, he thinks that this is like a slam dunk, when in fact, it is the exact fucking opposite. It is evidence that when a harm befalls women, society changes it with the speed of a fucking toad going through an algae-lined aqueduct. Just boom! Like, you can't even see that fucker. It's being launched to the moon. And yet, when something harms men, which is being expected to pay for debts that their wives have gotten with the credit card company, which they may not even know about, but they're expected to pay for it now. So if Honey Dearest goes out and gets 10 credit cards, each worth 10 times his income, he's totally and utterly fucked. But that is not very important for society to change. They take like 20 years to do it. That it goes at the rate of a mule going up Mount Everest.
Oh, you want to hear something hilarious?
Yeah.
2018 was the year that Michigan made dower rights gender neutral. So the state of Michigan is a blue state, progressive state, right? They had and dower rights exist, right? Okay, dower rights interfered with my husband and I, our ability to purchase this house because my mother-in-law wanted to sell it to us, and her husband, who was not on the title of the house, but who had lived here with her, and he was at that point confined to a mental institution for advanced dementia, completely legally incompetent. She had power of attorney. But Okay, so we go forward with the sale of the house, and then the lawyer starts, chatting with her, and she's like, oh, John's he's having a hard time, in the mental ward, blah blah blah, and her lawyer says, oh, I thought John was deceased. This complicates everything, right? You can't actually sell this house, right? Because he has dower rights. Because in Alberta, these rights, dower rights, they originally protected women, but they were made gender neutral when, back in the 1980s, when everything was pretty much made gender neutral. But because he lived in the house, he has a life interest in the house. He doesn't have a monetary interest in the house. He does not have any right to profit from the sale of the house. It's her house, right? But he can bar her from selling it if he chooses, because he has a right to live there because it's his home, right? And this was a right that originally applied only to women, basically barring their husband from being able to sell any real property, real estate, any house that the man owned, if she had ever lived there, because she has a right to live there. And it was there to protect women from a man who would maybe abandon his family, divorce her, and put her out on the street, sell the house out from under her and put her out on the street, right? She had a right to live there. She could bar him from selling the house. And Michigan only ungendered dower rights in 2018. So basically you had a situation where if a man and a woman both owned a house and they got married, right, the woman could sell her own house on her own authority, no input from him. She could just sell it and pocket all the money and she'd be fine. But the man had to have her legal permission. He had to have her signature on a contract saying, I authorize the sale of this house, right, before he was able to sell it, right? And that was a law that was specifically designed to protect women, and it only got ungendered in 2018.
Yep. Okay, so what you can see from our discussion is that what's really happening is society, as he said, has compassion for women and empathy for women, but things change so that laws that were intended to protect women no longer protect them because things have changed. Circumstances have changed. And then when those circumstances changed and society recognizes that they have changed and those laws no longer benefit women, those laws are changed. So all that he's noticed here is that before women ask for something or an issue that women have, before it becomes apparent, it hasn't been fixed. Literally, this is what he's using as evidence.
Yeah.
Before an issue becomes apparent, an issue for women becomes apparent, it hasn't been fixed. It takes a little while to fix it for society to be like, okay, we got to move the boulder for you, ladies. Might take a crew, might have to get the crew in, might have to figure out how to pay them. So it'll take a few minutes. Meanwhile, the women are fussing, are pissed.
The women are saying, well, I really actually like the piano over in that original corner.
Yeah. So this is all just a little bit of lag between recognizing that women have a problem and fixing it. That's it. And also, it simultaneously shows that if that creates a problem for men, society's going to drag its heels, it's going to file its nails, it's going to, watch paint dry in a corner, and then maybe get to it if it feels like it. So this example that he's using actually shows the exact opposite of what he's saying. But he doesn't know. He doesn't
know it because he doesn't know the history.
Well, he doesn't know it because he doesn't want to know it. It's just an easy soundbite. Like, once again, he's already conceded the argument. Yes, society has more empathy for women. We all know that. The emperor doesn't have any clothes. But look at the scintillating colors of his wonderful robe. This is what this is. It's just a puppet show. It's a song and dance. He's just using the rhetoric that these people use to mask the truth from themselves, which they already recognize. Because he just started the whole thing by, yeah, you're right. But we don't talk about that here. The emperor's clothes are beautiful. They're just really, they accentuate his buttocks or whatever the fuck.
They shine in the sunlight and they make his balls look very hefty.
That's what these people are doing.
It's a magnifying glass. Okay, so it's been an hour and a half, and I know that Karen started an hour late, so I don't know how much time she has. Do you want to keep going live?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go till for another 22 minutes.
Oh, I have some people to thank.
Go ahead, do the thankings. Do the thankings.
Okay, I will do the thankings. So I would like to thank Meredith G for $100. And then also Dark World Moon. I really hope that isn't your legal name. Dark World Moon for $250. So queue up a really good one for that.
Oh shit. Let me see. Let's do the Predator battle cry. If that doesn't get your blood pumping, I don't know what will.
Okay, if you would like to join our very generous supporters, please go to feedthebadger.com. Our monthly fundraisers at feedthebadger.com/project/badger-media-blitz. We now have $245 to go. So we've made some really good progress on it.
Sweet.
And once again, every little bit counts. So don't if you only put in $5, not only, but it's a big help. Every $5 is that $5 that got us over the top. So once again, that's feedthebadger.com. Okay, Brian, let's do some more of this.
All right.
Stay exclusively.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's stay with the U.S. And first of all, I know what you're saying about women not having a credit card until 1973, but at the same time, 18, 19, 20-year-old boys in 1973 and before were being drafted to die in Vietnam.
Right, and I think you'll find that people advocated for...
Let's say today. In the U.S. today, for example, Obamacare allows for an annual women's wellness visit, which is an annual physical for general health.
All right, I'm just pausing it there. These things get, he's going to try to explain a big thing. It wasn't a bad idea to point out the Vietnam thing because, there's a big difference between not being able to get a credit card because of rules we put in place to protect you and being drafted into fight in a war and basically just die in some foreign country. And
literally, women are being harmed by being overprotected, and men are being harmed by being expendable.
One is private entities are allowed to consent to an agreement, versus the government can basically take
the government the government owns your body. So as long as you have to sign up for the draft, you are the property of the state, because they can just be we need to draft people and send them to this other country in the other side of the world. And what your opinions are on the war are irrelevant because you got to go if they choose to do it. So
what your opinions are on the draft and on selective service are irrelevant because there are literally. I was watching a story about he has a landscaping, an independent landscaping business. So he's just basically somebody who goes and mows lawns and cleans pools and stuff like that, right? I mean, and you can make good money doing that down in the U.S., right? But he's this black man. He was in prison between the ages of 18 and 26. Mm-hmm. And nobody actually told him that if you don't register before age 26, you don't apply for student loans, you don't apply for Pell Grants, you don't apply for all of this, you don't qualify for any of it. You also
don't get to vote.
Yeah. So it's basically he was like, nope, nobody actually told me this. I was a dumb kid when I committed the crime. I'm making good. I'm a upstanding citizen now, that I'm 30 years old, but I can't qualify for any of this stuff because government employment, anything like that, because because nobody thought it was pertinent to tell me while I was serving time on drug offenses that I had to sign up for this thing. Right?
Yeah,
and it's like,
sure.
And 26 is the deadline. If you don't do it by age 26, whether you're a citizen or not, you don't qualify for any of these.
Yep. You can't even try to apply. They're not even, because like aren't they? You're basically asking for a loan, so it's not even a privilege because you got to pay it back.
You don't get Pell Grants. You don't get student loans.
Right.
You don't get anything that the federal government provides. I don't even know if you get welfare or WIC or food stamps or whatever. Like, I don't know whether you get any of that if you failed to apply before age 26, whether you're a citizen or not, whether you were a citizen during those years or not. And it's like, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, like, how is this not something that sparks outrage? Right?
Because it's important.
Because no woman is going to be denied any of those things based on the fact that she did not sign her bodily autonomy away to the federal government.
Yeah, well, I mean, but my credit cards. But my credit cards.
And the government isn't going to force my employer to pay for my morning after pill or my abortion.
I wonder if the smugness comes from the fact that he feels like he's intellectually superior and that he's more capable of creating this rhetoric and lies.
Yes.
Like he sits there and he knows like we're all just sitting here and we're watching the emperor parade around with his ass hanging out and his dick flopping in the wind.
I'm going to find this clip of Jordan Peterson from before he became famous, where he's lecturing his classroom on the definition of evil. And I'm going to play it sometimes. You guys can hear it. But it is essentially self-righteousness without clarity, without any humility.
Doubt?
Yeah, without doubt
without
and
any
humility.
self-doubt.
Yes.
Okay, well let me point out what I'm saying. So we're all sitting there, we're watching the emperor parade around, the junk hanging out, and his flabby ass, and this guy is like, yeah, we all know he's naked, but what I'm getting off on is my ability to make such a persuasive lie that everyone around me agrees with. Of course, it's not really that much of a, it's not really that. You shouldn't pat yourself in the back too much to make these two women agree with you, because I'm pretty sure they're quite easy to convince of shit. Like they don't strike me as being towering intellects, shall we say? Jesus Christ! It's because they live longer. That's why they deserve more retirement.
Yep. Let me write this down. I'm gonna get him with this one. All right, Zeranx gives us $5 and says, on top of that, failing to register for selective service is a felony. Yes, it is. Okay.
Yes, it is. But no one has been actually prosecuted for it for a while.
No,
so.
Well, not for a while.
God. Men pay for insurance or Obamacare. They do not get the same health care under Obamacare that women will get. Prostate cancer screening is also not covered under Obamacare. Prostate cancer is the cancer a non-smoking man is most likely to die from. The only cancer that kills more men than prostate cancer.
Dude, when do you get it? When do you get prostate? When do you get?
All right, I'm just pausing it there. He's gonna do his dunk. So basically, in case you guys didn't hear it, he said that he's giving an example, and he says under Obamacare. So we're talking about a state-funded healthcare system. Women get all of these additional services. Men don't. Okay, so it's preferential to women because of course it is.
Prostate cancer.
I'm sorry?
When do you get prostate cancer? When is what is the age in which you need to worry about prostate cancer?
Does that matter?
More men
What does that
die of
matter?
prostate cancer.
I think he wants to make a point. I don't know. Let's see.
No, he wants to
I
make
understand. What is the age?
He wants to what?
What the fuck is his problem? Why is he already screaming?
He wants to make the statistical point that, oh, well, it's not covered for men under 65. So that it's like what I went to, like one rape is one too many. Well, one man who is under 65 who gets prostate cancer and dies because he doesn't have coverage is one man too many. Who doesn't have coverage? It's not even an option, right? It's not even something that you can pay extra to get that coverage, right? Yet at the same time, here's the horrific thing about Obamacare. All single men, unmarried men, have to pay for prenatal and maternity coverage. Okay? But if they happen to impregnate a woman who doesn't have insurance, they're not allowed to transfer their insurance to cover her.
They're paying for insurance that they don't use, basically.
They're paying for insurance that not only they don't use,
they
but
can't
they're not
use.
allowed to.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, the red pill is realizing that society has empathy for women and does not have empathy for men. The infrared pill is realizing that people like this know that too.
Yeah.
He knows.
But what he's doing
He's just
here,
getting off on the fact
Yeah.
that he's able to construct this elaborate fiction in which everybody here knows, everybody's already agreed that society has less empathy for men or no empathy for men relative to women. We all agree that the emperor has no clothes. He is absolutely ecstatic that he gets an opportunity to weave a tale that has such veracity that everyone around them, even though they all know that the emperor has no clothes, starts talking about how resplendent the emperor's clothes are. That's what this is. I mean, and I don't know, like, once you get to that understanding, what do you do? Like, this guy knows what I'm talking. He knows, he might not know precisely what Karen's talking about, but he knows. He already knows. So how do you convince him of something that he's already convinced of? You know?
Well, yeah, that's the purpose of all this. But I just wanted to let you guys know. Well, first of all, what he's doing here is that when he does all of this sort of smug, talking over, and basically he's trying to establish his dominance. So he's literally like the toads that puff up their, the frog or whatever that puffs up its sack to basically say, don't mess with me. I have 2 women. That proves that I'm a better man than you are. And, here's a bunch of rhetoric. And then he may as well just be croaking on here because he's not saying anything of value. And also, and it's not just an insult. Like, he is establishing dominance. That's what he's trying to do. He's just doing it through this rhetorical sense. Whereas, another man might do it with physical, in a physical way.
How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you encroach upon my harem?
It's just it's
this narrative.
Mm-hmm.
This narrative is what gives him access to them. You know that?
Yeah.
Like it may just be a psychological access, but he is the one who's going to protect them from a society that wants to give them everything. But that's beside the point. But if society actually cares about women, if women actually have this power to set the and they do. What the hell do they need him for? They don't. Like, neither of these 2 women need this guy for butt, kiss, anything. Like, they don't need him protecting them. They don't need him advocating for them.
No.
They don't need him. And yet, his narrative is one in which they do need him when they don't. And this guy is coming on and basically saying, yeah, your chicks, I'm going to just untie them, right? I'm gonna take away the narrative that ties them to you. I'm gonna just let them be free range chicks. And then he's like, "Yeah, fuck you. I'm gonna spit my toad venom all over you.
Yeah,
you ain't gonna touch my women's. They're my women's.
Can I?
They're stupid, but they're cute.
I wanted to let you guys know that the guy who called in is in our chat right now. Blue Orange 22 is in the chat. And he's commenting. So welcome to our show, Blue Orange 22. Maybe I can have you on sometime and we can talk about your conversation with Sam Seder. I don't know. I mean, but I thought I would acknowledge Blue Orange 22 in the chat.
Oh no, like, because it takes a certain amount of chutzpah to go on not just a hostile show, but hostile show and go 3-on-1. Like there was no way for him to win. I've been on liberal talk shows before.
Well, his audience is gonna, but Sam Seder's audience is gonna agree with Sam Seder no matter how things go, though. So
no. If you actually go and look at the comments, a lot of them are sympathetic to Blue Orange 22. Like in terms of like, why didn't you let him talk, right? And a lot of them were like retarded comments about how, he's fighting patriarchy too,
Yeah, I saw that too.
It's like, fuck that shit. But because fuck the whole idea of patriarchy, at least as feminists describe it. But so like a lot of the comments are, like this was a complete shit show. It was unlistenable because Sam kept interrupting, Sam kept talking over, and then the women also were talking over the caller, and so I mean, like there are a lot of I wanted to hear what he had to say type thing, like this, so there. I think like the audience is not quite as hell bent on denying all of this as Sam is. I think maybe it would have been better for Blue Orange 22 to call in when he didn't have two women fucking with the dynamic. That might have been better, because literally Sam is posturing for these women, right? Yeah. That's what he's doing. And this is why we shouldn't have mixed gender military units and things like that, in my opinion. It's not because women are less capable or whatever, right? Like, I mean, they're certainly capable of certain things, but they interfere with the cohesion of the males in the unit just by their very presence.
Beta!
And what?
Beta!
He's making a reference to this guy posturing because he wants to be the alpha. He's got the females. He's he's the elephant seal. You could show one of those elephant seals that I sent you there, Brian.
Oh yeah, no, the sea lions and the photo of Barack Obama. I remember that. Yeah, no, and I used it in a presentation, and they didn't include the photos in the presentation. I think they were worried about
racism?
No, I think they were worried about being dinged for copyright.
Oh,
this was at ICMI 17 in Australia.
Oh, I see. Because of the video.
Yeah, and so they were worried that, if they actually showed the pictures. But I was just like, okay, compare these two pictures, right? Look at the smug look on the male's face. Look at all of the adoring females gazing upon him, right? And surrounding him. And, like, it doesn't mean that necessarily that Obama wanted to have sex with all of these women, right? But he certainly was basking in their approval.
Yep.
And that was definitely something that I got from you, Alison, because you put that up, those two comparisons, in a video. I think it was a very brief video, maybe 30 seconds long, right? Compare the photos.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it's like you look at it, and it like these are men. They want women's approval,
and they want a harem of it. And this is what's here.
They do, And women who are like, you know what, I really don't care about what you can do for me, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm an actual independent woman who can look after herself and change her own car battery and her own tires and stuff, right? That's what I am, right? These guys don't want anything to do with women like that, even though those are the women that they, according to them, are promoting, right?
Yeah. Like I've had when I've said stuff like this, like some of the stuff, particularly on rape, I've had male feminists say things like, you should get raped. That's what's going to happen to you if you don't abide by this, if you don't get in the pen.
Oh, yeah, no. And then you say, well, I have been. And they're like, and you say, I have been sexually assaulted and I'm actually fine. Right? I'm fine. You know why? Because I recognize my own agency and I was able to pick apart, right, the series of events that led to me being in a vulnerable position where I was sexually assaulted by people that I knew I shouldn't be hanging out with, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because they were untrustworthy, they were bad actors. I knew that going in, and yet, there was some freaking stupid ass reason why I decided to make these bad decisions. And you know what? I don't have to make those decisions again. I don't have to actually go down that road again. And that's all a matter of me just making better choices. And so I don't have to live in fear. And there is nothing that makes a male feminist more angry than that.
Well, not wanting to live in fear. Like I would rather live under the threat. Not like well, first of all, it's not really that big of a threat, but whatever. I'm not going to live in fear. That's point blank. And I watch this. What this guy is doing is he's spinning a narrative of fear, and that is justification for why he basks in the approval of his little harem here. And then this other dude's coming in and he's like, yeah, let me just untie these women. Like, Jesus, they don't seem to be really very independent. Like, you say that they talk over the caller?
The women?
Well, I think
yeah, the women on the panel. Did they talk over the caller?
Yeah, they do later on.
Okay. It's certainly quiet now.
Well, because it's still paused.
Okay.
I haven't hit play yet. Okay. Let's keep going. It's 5:30 now, my time. So, how much longer do you want to go, Karen?
I can go another 10 minutes, I guess.
All right.
Age. What is the age?
What is the age I will get prostate cancer?
What is the age when men contract prostate cancer?
It is the cancer.
Well,
No, I didn't ask you what the age is. I didn't ask you what the cancer is. I know what prostate cancer is. I'm asking you, at what age do you think you're most vulnerable that you really need the screening?
60 and above.
Yeah.
Well, what about
Have you ever heard of Medicare?
breast cancer?
Well, his point is because the guy said 60 and above, and he's basically bringing up Medicare. So he's trying to say...
Well, he's basically saying that 95% of the men who get prostate cancer are covered by Medicare. And so denying men prostate cancer screening and treatment under Obamacare is not a big deal because 95% of men who get it are covered by Medicare and Medicare coverage.
Yes. And
yeah, but that's by the time you discover it.
Okay, but 5% of the women weren't covered by for breast cancer screening.
Yeah,
what would he say to that?
Yeah, no, it's like literally I literally had to mention my doctor's penis to avoid a mammogram. Because he was like, "Oh, you're 50 now. That's when we start doing it." And I was like, "Do you realize what they do to you in those machines? Like they might as well use them to crush cars, right? For scrap." No. And he's like, "Well, you really should. You're 50 years old." And I'm like, "I got no family history. How about this? I tell you what. You stick your penis in that thing, you let me know how it goes, and then I'll reconsider. How about that? And he almost fell off his chair laughing.
I just want to also...
And then he was like, okay, I won't bug you anymore.
Yeah. I also want to point out another tactic. When you're arguing with someone and you know that they're arguing with you in bad faith, beware when they start asking you these very pointed questions, because what they're trying to do... Because, like, the fact that men... the average age of men getting prostate cancer is 60 years old, and that means that, you know, they could just use Medicare to get it. That is actually not relevant, because we start testing for prostate cancer in your mid-40s. And so, testing...
Not anymore. Not under Obamacare. Not under Obamacare. They eliminated the blood test for prostate cancer, period.
Yeah, but
under
you
Obamacare.
should... But I'm saying, like, prostate cancer doesn't care when Obamacare, like, when Medicare starts, right?
Oh,
like, prostate, like, so my point is, the tactic he's employing is, oh, well, I understand how Medicare works, so I'm going to just throw this out there. And when someone gets that, like, you can see the self-righteousness like foaming. It's like rising to the surface. It's like one of those, you know, science project volcanoes. Like, you can see everything bubbling up. So what you need to do is, you know, cut it off and just be like, prostate cancer starts affecting men at this age, and go to 45. Not when do men start fucking falling over from prostate cancer? When do they start dying? How about we cut that off at the pass?
How about this? How about this? Right? Okay, we know that mesothelioma affects people who have mostly worked in industries where they're dealing with asbestos. Okay, because it's an asbestos-caused cancer, right? But okay, what about a situation where a 6-year-old is living in a home where there's asbestos, and by age 12, they've developed asbestos-induced lung cancer, right? Well, that's a statistical anomaly. That's extremely rare. We should not cover testing or treatment for that, because it just doesn't happen very often, right? And so we shouldn't even bother. How about that?
Yeah, exactly. How about that? All right, you want to keep going?
For a few more minutes.
Yeah.
My son just arrived. I'm sorry.
Obamacare, the ACA, deals with people who get up to the age of Medicare.
But not everybody is over the age of 60 when they get prostate cancer.
No, I understand that, but you also don't. You're not getting mammograms if you're a 25-year-old woman on Obamacare.
But a 25 woman can get breast cancer and die.
It's not about breast cancer. Women are going to the OBGYN for the birth of children and for reproductive health. Men cannot carry
babies. The health needs.
All right. Just paused it there because I didn't want to go too long. So I have a. I'll read Go ahead.
What's really frustrating is that the test and the justification for eliminating prostate cancer screening, because the test it's just a simple blood test. It's very inexpensive, right? That the reasoning behind not doing the screening is that in most cases, men will die of some other cause before they die of prostate cancer. In most cases. Okay. So we don't need to screen for it, because then we might want to treat it or, do so. But here's the thing, right? Puberty blockers. Okay. Puberty blockers were originally developed to slow down the advancement of hormone-driven cancers, right? So prostate cancer, breast cancer, uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, testicular cancer, penile cancer, right? So hormone-driven cancers. So basically, a lot of these men who might, at age 45 or age 50, and this is generally a slow advancing cancer, right? They could engage in certain hormone therapies that stop the advancement of the cancer. These are not expensive therapies. We're literally recommending them for prepubescent children who identify as trans, and that's all covered by Obamacare. But for a 45-year-old man who tests positive through a cheap blood test for prostate cancer, yeah, we're not going to do that because we're not going to even perform the test. That's literally what it is.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
Because we would have to actually treat it.
Yep. Exactly. Also, that's a pretty transphobic thing to say, that women are the only people who have babies. I'll have you know that there are many persons who can carry children. I forget what you call it, but embryo carrying, fetus carriers out there, and I wouldn't go around. Birthing people. That's right, birthing people. So watch it, lady. Wow, Sam, you guys are not very progressive.
Point is the health needs.
But a 55-year-old man can still develop advanced stage prostate cancer, but he would not have screening available.
I understand, but dude, you understand that the way that they determine these things is not a function of the possibility. It is the function of the likelihood. What you're complaining about is public health policy.
What's the difference between the possibility and the likelihood?
No, I'm sorry.
Wait. Well, but if 5% of women didn't get breast cancer screening, what would you guys say?
Yeah, no, and it's like literally, okay, breast cancer screening, okay, for young women is breast self-examinations, and which they give you education on, and oh my God, what the? Sorry,
What is it?
toenails, and also if you have a family history of breast cancer, you would be able to get advanced screening for breast cancer if you have a family history of it. Like, there's no allowance for that in terms of prostate cancer. There's no allowance for that in terms of testicular cancer. There's no allowance for that in terms of penile cancer, right? There's no allowance for that at all for men to be screened for these things, even if they have a family history of the disease. And I'm just gonna go out there and say, my ex-in-law, who is also named Karen, my ex-husband's sister, right? Her husband Frank, every single member of his family died before the age of 50 of cancer. Okay, except for him, and he was 55 years old, and they sent a mass email out to the whole family and said, "Oh, he's in the hospital. Good news, it's just a heart attack." Right?
Wow.
Good news, it's just a heart attack.
Yeah.
Right? He doesn't have cancer. And it's so, I mean, you're looking at people with family histories. They're not allowed to have these screenings based on their family history if they're male, right? Whereas you can have someone like Angelina Jolie have a double mastectomy based on her family risk, her family history, right? Yeah. She's like, oh, probably by the time I'm 35, I'm going to develop breast cancer, so I'm going to get rid of these things. And so, I mean, like, you're looking at a situation where there's no individuality allowed. There's no room for individual difference allowed. You basically are in a cookie cutter situation where, if you're male and if you're under 60 or 65 and you don't qualify for Medicare, you just don't get the screening.
Yes.
Ever. For any reason. And
again, if this is applied to 5% of women for any health issue that they face, of course this guy would be considering it a problem. And it's interesting how all he does is dismiss all of the things that the guy brings up as vulnerabilities that men have. And it really, like I said at the beginning, he's already conceded the argument. He has already agreed that the emperor has no clothes. Society is more empathetic towards women. Now he's just giving us the song and dance that's supposed to convince us the emperor really, while having no clothes, really does wear clothes, because clothes are a function of the mind, you see. Male vulnerability is it's simply a function of thinking. It is fix your cognition. Yes, we all agree that the emperor has clothes and society is empathetic towards women, but as you know, what we really see is that the emperor does have clothes, and blah, it's like, what do you do? Like,
well, I mean, well, I don't know. I mean, let's hear the girl in red, because she's about to, like,
oh, she's about to drop another bomb on us.
She's about to drop another knowledge bomb, and then I think we'll respond to that and then close it out, because I think Karen's got to go. It's like after.
We have to do thank yous.
Thank yous. Yes.
Yeah.
Women spend, on average, from ages 19 to 35, $3,400 a year on healthcare. How much do you think men spend?
What's the relevance in how the law's written?
$1,900, because Obamacare is meant to lower the cost of healthcare.
It's the basis for how the law is written.
It's the complete basis. What's the difference between possibility and likelihood? Likelihood measures.
Could you stop him?
I'm trying. Just chill out. Okay, it's paused.
He says women will spend $3,400 on healthcare, and men will spend $1,900 on healthcare.
Therefore, men should pay more in insurance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it could also because wait, but they're measuring averages, so maybe it's because women go and they take advantage of healthcare services more frequently than men, and men they don't tend to do it as often. That's probably more likely the case.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. Men don't utilize the healthcare system as often as women do.
Yeah, in every category, in every age category, they're more likely to die.
Yeah,
it's not that they don't need healthcare. It's not that they don't need it. They just don't use it.
At the same time, they don't need to be as well insured.
Okay, so men die of almost every leading cause of death more than women. They die more often in every age category. Okay? They have significantly more rate of injury, yet they spend significantly less on healthcare, and they subsidize women's, though this is certainly some sort of oppression of women right there. Men probably need healthcare more than women, but they spend less on themselves. So let's punish them for that by making them spend more on women.
Exactly.
Again.
Well, clearly they have the money to spend on women because they're not spending it on themselves.
They choose to have this cognition. Like they're literally, they know that it is wrong. They know that society has more empathy for men or for women than for men. And they are even giving examples of it, like his ridiculous example of men having to pay for women's credit cards. Therefore, the banks wanting to know the man who's going to have to pay for it as an evidence.
I don't know that he knows that, right?
Of course he doesn't. Because he doesn't bother to look past his song and dance. But let me get to my point, all right? This individual woman is fantastic because everything she brings up is a direct illustration of society's greater compassion for men or for women, and her assumption that that's the case. Well, men have to retire later because they don't live as long. What?
Yeah.
Okay. Men don't pay as much. Don't pay as much. They don't buy as much health care for themselves, so they should pay more for women's health care.
Yeah.
Even though they need it more. Okay. Great self-own there, lady. Like you've done it twice. We should just put you on the panel for the men's rights activists because everything out of your mouth is proving the opposite of what you think it does.
Yeah, no, it is a beautiful self-own.
Oh. Okay, and we need to do thank yous.
Yeah,
Karen needs to go.
And I need to go in about 3 minutes. So
yeah, I'm just gonna read. I got a couple super chats. I'll do
a thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. You do your thank yous first then.
Okay, Hanzi, I'm pretty sure, put in $100 into the kitty. So thank you, Hanzi, and once again, And once again, if you want to join our very generous supporters, please go to feedthebadger.com. The fundraiser, if you want to go directly to the fundraiser, it's feedthebadger.com/project/badger-media-blitz. We now have, I think, $115 left. Let me double check here. It probably hasn't updated yet because it takes forever to update, but no.
Okay.
Go ahead. No.
I was just going to say,
no, actually, if you're 145.
Okay. If you're refreshing or you need a moment, I have 2 super chats.
Okay, go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead.
Albert, that's okay. Albert Nader Retro gives us $20 Canadian. Thank you, Albert. And he says, I remember a Crowder proved me wrong, you mean changed my mind, segment where a young guy buried him by pointing out unions keep out illegal migrant labor. He embarrassed Steve so bad he tried to intimidate him. The kid stood his ground. I haven't seen that, but in everything that I've seen, every interaction I've seen with when Crowder does that, he's pretty respectful. Thomas Steen gives us $5 and says, the whole time I've had this on, Sam has looked and sounded like a D-bag. I don't blame Crowder not wanting to deal with him. What's with these about Crowder? Well, yeah, I remember that too. I mean, obviously that everyone was talking about it for a little while. And Sam Seder's not entitled to debate people, and no one is. And Ethan Klein is a pussy. So if you wanted to talk about this, if you have convictions in your beliefs, then you should be ready to discuss them. You don't have to debate. You don't have to make it into a knockdown, drag out contest to see who wins, because usually that doesn't result in anyone learning anything. If you have integrity, then yeah, you'll just have a conversation.
Beta!
All right. That's it for the super chats, Alice.
All right. So, yeah, we have $145 left. If you want to put us over the top, every little bit counts, especially now that we're in the final stretch. So that's feedthebadger.com/project/badger-media-blitz, or you can just go to Feed the Badger and follow the pop-ups. Do we want to make any final comments? I like the about Woman in Red. She owns herself very efficiently.
Yeah, no, she literally, everything that she says, she thinks she's making a point, but she's making the opposite point. And
this guy really likes him stupid.
Yeah. I need to go. I'm currently, it is
you have to get going.
It's 39 degrees.
Good Lord.
Humidex of 42.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know how
this
hot
is not,
that is.
This is not weather that Canadians are prepared to endure.
Yeah, no, literally my son used to walk to school in -10 weather in shorts and a hoodie. Okay? -10 Celsius. And -20, we'd still be getting into arguments over pants. Yep. Over jeans, right? And I would tell him, okay, wear whatever the fuck you want because you're too big for me to hold you down and put you in clothes, okay? But if I get a visit from Child Services, I'm not going to waste the social worker's visit, right? I'm not going to let that visit go to waste, right? Meaning I'm going to beat the fuck out of you, and then they're going to take you away to foster home, right? Because, Jesus, fuck.
Yeah.
-20. -20. That's -14 or something like that.
Yeah, that's cold.
So, yeah. Shorts and a hoodie. So yeah, we're just not used to this. It's really, they call it a heat dome. It's a heat dome over British Columbia that's moving eastward.
Oh crap! That means we're gonna get it.
Allison.
Somehow, I think China is responsible. Okay, so I blame China. All right, is that it? We should wrap it up.
The mask mandate ends tomorrow.
Yes, it does.
Well,
so I can go to an air-conditioned store and not wear a mask.
Lay out your yoga mat.
You're gonna miss oxygen. You're gonna realize how much.
Bring my yoga mat and sleep in the beer cooler at the liquor store.
All right.
Okay.
So, Allison, do you want to say any final things?
Help us out this month to make sure we can support Brian Prim and Hannah's work. Very important work at feedthebadger.com. And that's pretty much it for me. I don't know what to like. The thing is, this is the thing, okay? They know that this is bullshit. And they one of the things that they count on is that when people like and I need to mention Blue Orange actually called the office, so he's really eager to get on the show. I told him that it wouldn't work.
That's
for
not
me
how
to,
that's
like,
not how this works. But
it's not,
just
that's not how
him
it works. But
I told him to reach out to us on Twitter, and then we would set something up. I don't know if he's on Twitter, but all of our contact crap is in the low bar. So either way, but go ahead.
Okay, so they know that this is bullshit. I mean, he lost the argument in the first 4 minutes when he said, "Yeah, societies does express more empathy." I can't argue with that. Well, no, you can't. All you can say is bring up things in which society put something in place that was supposed to protect women, or was a balance between being able to provide something for women and protecting them, and maybe the resources of that society. You point at that and you say, well, that harmed women in this other instance, and then society had a bit of a lag to fix it, even though our society ran to fix it anyway, and in the process harmed men, and fixing the harm to men took decades longer. And you look at all of this, and it's like you're pointing to these instances of counterexample, essentially. So he acknowledges society cares about women more than men. It has more empathy towards women than men. He acknowledges that. And then he seeks out all of the counterexamples to try to weave a fiction. And he is aware that it is a fiction. But it becomes true because enough people buy into the lie. And that makes it true. It is pure sophistry. And it's sophistry, which is really fascinating. It's sophistry that the sophist knows is sophistry. He knows this is bullshit. He admitted in the first 4 minutes that it's all bullshit. That he basically said, big sign, put it up. Everything I say after this is bullshit. It's just designed to be a song and dance so people buy into what they know is an obvious lie. And like, where do you go when you have that understanding? When you are situated in the truth of that, what do? Where do you go forward? Because it's like, yeah, you're lying. You're lying. You probably bank on the fact that you can generate a false sense of something by arguing with someone who's like, yeah, this is a lie. Well, by arguing that point, you almost create the perception that there is a legitimate other side where there isn't. There is no legitimate other side. Society has empathy for women. It barely has empathy for men. It barely even likes them, except when women are providing and protecting for women. And that's it. Otherwise, society doesn't give a fuck about men. And wherever men seem to be privileged, it's simply because they had no other choice. They had to give them rights, or because they needed to use those rights to fulfill their responsibilities. That's it. Okay? That's where it all reduces down to. You might have an argument with tribal societies in which women are subordinate to the tribe, but certainly don't have an argument in Western societies. And I don't really think you have an argument in tribal societies either, because the tribe has to survive in order for women to survive, which is why they're subordinate to the tribe. Regardless, when you're looking at Western societies, full stop, they have empathy towards women. They do not have empathy towards men. Everything after that is a lie, is them lying and them playing a game of who can create the most inventive and compelling lie. And it's like, what do? You go onto these shows and you're like, well, you're lying, sir. Well, you just agreed that society cares about women more than men. So you're using these counterexamples that really they only amount to society lagging in changing something from beneficial to women. The on-the-ground situation changed, so that law was no longer beneficial to women. Society lags a bit in changing it so it's beneficial to women. And you're pointing out these situations as evidence of something that doesn't exist, that you've already acknowledged doesn't exist. Okay? I mean, at this point, how do you deal with someone so disingenuous?
Don't.
It's extremely bad faith. On 100% bad faith. And like, yeah, no, and this is why the interrupting kept happening and all of that. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, because he had to just weave his tale. He had to he had to architect this entire narrative of the emperor having clothes. And he can't, I mean, the guy was just sitting there saying he doesn't have clothes, but he doesn't have clothes. And he's like, shut up. He doesn't have clothes, but he doesn't have clothes. And he's like, shut up. Yes, we all agree with that, you idiot. Let us do our work here. What everybody wants from us, which is to create the perception that society doesn't care about women so we can hide the fact that it does. For whatever goddamn reason we're doing this now, like whatever reason this particular generation has incarnated on the planet, this is the lie that we want to engage in. Okay. I don't mean to sound nihilistic, but it's just...
Oh, I know you don't, because you're an optimist. I'm a pessimist, and I do intend to sound nihilistic. We're doomed. But that means that everybody should send their remaining bank balances to Badger Media Blitz, because what else are you going to spend it on? It's not even going to, with hyperinflation coming down the pike, it's not even going to be able to buy you a fucking Starbucks coffee. So why not send it to Badger Media Blitz? Pay for the people who rail against the dying of the light, and
this ridiculous bullshit. You see, the problem with it is the emperor has no clothes, and he's destroying the entirety of the economy in order to prove that he has no fucking clothes, or he has clothes.
Yeah, no, he is, and so it's like I'm just like, you know what, I don't beg for myself. You know, I have my little tip jar, I have my little ways that contribute to me, but I you know, like I have a husband who manages to earn a significant amount of money and support everybody in the household. So I don't really need it, but you know, if you want to actually do something, whether you're an optimist or a pessimist, there's no way to lose. Because if you're an optimist, contributing a little bit, that's worth your while. If you're a pessimist, and you think it's all doomed to unravel and crash, what do you need that $5 for?
And what I would say to that is, I'm trying to build an ark. That's what I'm doing.
Well, I agree.
I don't have much optimism.
You're trying to build an ark. I'm like, oh, fuck. That's not going to fit everybody. But,
well, you know, either that or everyone drowns.
You know what? I'm okay drowning. But
yeah, you don't want your kids.
I would really like a better world for my children.
No crap, no shit. Like that's just awful. But yeah, so if you want to help support this message, feedthebadger.com. You know, I put this out there because I believe it does have an opportunity to change things. Like it may not be the most may not be the message that gets the most interest, but I think it's the one that actually can do some good, because this we can't keep shitting on the group of people that's primarily responsible for running society without losing what we have. It seems so obvious to me. Like, men are primarily responsible now for keeping the lights on, keeping people fed, keeping people, like, the plumbing working, keeping people's air conditioning working and their heating. They're primarily responsible for the movement of goods. Like, they are lifting our society, and we are shitting on them. We are demotivating them We are destroying their sense of well-being and health. It's like that something's going to break. I think it's breaking. It's in the process of breaking. We're watching it break as we speak. But if we are going to be able to do anything, if we are going to be able to salvage anything, it's going to be because we fight against this narrative and the perfidy of it. Like, these people know that society cares about women. That's why they advocate for women. And they don't really advocate for women. They just advocate for themselves in the guise of women. They know it. They already know. But the maintenance of the lie is so costly. It's going to cost us everything. So that's why I do what I do. Because I know even if it's small, this is the only thing that will really change anything. So if you want to be part of that message, feedthebadger.com. You can create a subscription. You can do a one-time donation. You can also help us out with a monthly fundraiser. Once again, feedthebadger.com/projects/badger-media-blitz.
And also, if you want to prove me wrong, well, put your money where your mouth is.
Or you want to prove me right.
There you
the
go.
pessimist versus the optimist. Okay. There, back to Brian.
Okay, so if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, and please share this video because sharing is caring. It's not Karen, it's caring. And let us know what you guys think. Maybe watch the whole thing if you want to. We're going to go into the patron show now, and I'm going to watch some more of this video with the patrons. So to do that, if you want to be a part of that action, yeah, go to feedthebadger.com and set up a monthly subscription. So thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of the Rantzerker. Thank you so much for your kind support, and we'll talk to you guys in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.